So 6, you're like Lieutenant Dan, and 7, you're like Forrest Gump.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, nice.
Except I have both my legs.
Okay. Yeah. Tomato.
Yeah, I still like the ice cream though.
They don't do you any good if you don't through hike. So.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hard Times Strong Men podcast, training up a better class of men. Today we are talking with Doc, host of the John Freakin Muir podcast. Welcome aboard.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, and I love the way you pronounce that. You got it exactly right. John Freakin Muir pod. There's no G at the end of freakin', so.
That's how we like it, with an apostrophe.
Uncultured swine.
That's super awesome. Welcome aboard, Doc. Thanks a lot for taking the time for us today. We really appreciate it.
Seriously. Glad to have you here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. I think out of all of us, I'm probably the one with the least amount of knowledge on what through hiking is. So if you want to, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you're doing right now.
Well, 6, by the time we're done tonight, you'll be able to apply for some college credit.
Heck yeah.
We're going to class. We're going to school tonight,
Yes.
and you'll be fully educated on the topic. Where are you
let's
guys?
do this thing.
Yeah,
Where are you guys based? I hear like a Canadian accent. Are you guys in Canada?
I'm the one in Canada.
Okay.
The other two are in the beautiful, free America. I correct people, though, so I'll say it right away. When anyone says that Nomad is from the Great White North, I'm like, no, because that's implying that this country's great. I'm from the cold White North, because this place is not about the freedom. But I'm the Canadian one, and they're both from the land of the free.
You're bursting a lot of American dreams down here, thinking about the Great White North up there. I think for the most part we have a very favorable opinion of Canada.
That's what a lot of people have. There's a lot of outdoor activities, but the people are not into the outdoor culture, and we will for sure get into that, and we'll have some laughs when you realize there's not a lot of people that do hiking, let alone through hiking here.
Well, I've had a number of Canadians on the podcast who have shared some incredible stories.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a few.
There are a few for sure. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just for however many people live here and how much space we have, you think there'd be more. It's just interesting. It's like its own subculture here.
The adventurous ones got taken out by the moose long ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do have a running debate on the podcast as to what is the more dangerous animal out there, the grizzly or the moose. I'm of the firm opinion that it's the moose.
Yeah, I've almost hit two. I don't even know what they are. Are they just moose? Plural moose, I guess. I'm a bad meese.
Meese. I like meese.
I'm a bad Canadian. I don't even know. But I've almost hit 2 meese with my truck over the years, and I would not want to even hit 1 moose. Those things are killer. They're huge.
Yeah, so I don't know in general or individually because, there is a story of the cocaine bear.
Yes.
And that, you're not topping that. I don't care how big the moose is.
Yeah, that's true.
But
yeah, and then I've also seen my fair share of bears, mostly black where I live. I've never seen a grizzly before, but they're pretty crazy too. So.
Yeah, well, they give you strategies in terms of how to act when there's a bear, right? Even if they give you, if it's a black bear, you get big. If it's a grizzly bear, you play dead. But there is no strategy for moose.
No.
I don't know if they just say you're screwed and that's it. But there's no strategy, no advice.
Bohica. Then over here it comes again.
Yeah.
There you go, Bohica.
goodness. Well, and because you think, oh man, okay, if it rams me, I can hide behind a tree. Moose will take out a tree.
They're huge.
They'll just rip it out.
Yeah.
I mean, the antlers on that thing, it could cradle you, a full man, and I mean, what are you gonna do? It's like a shark.
Yeah. And
what
like
am I gonna do to a shark?
Yeah, and like those things running, even like waist high snow, they can boogie. Like, have you seen those things? Those things can cover some ground.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I've got a story already. If you're ready,
send it.
Please.
So, are you familiar with Jeff Garmeyer? Goes by the trail name Legend.
I know of the name. I just don't know much about him, but I know the name.
He's an incredible human being, endurance athlete, has just tons of accomplishments. He's one of like 5 people to do the Great Western Loop.
Okay.
Which basically connects the PCT and the CDT and some trails in between. You do basically a big square. It's I have the stats here somewhere that I had prepared for our conversation. Great Western Loop, 6,875 mile footpath.
Holy.
That links five different long distance trails, including the Pacific Crest Trail, the Pacific Northwest Trail, the Continental Divide Trail, the Grand Enchantment Trail, the Arizona Trail, and then a trailless segment through the Sonoran and Mojave deserts. You just have to find your way back to
another trail.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. So he's one of five.
He's one of five people to do it.
One of five people to do that. And he was coming up on a town as he was going. I think it was the CDT, or it may have been part of the Grand Enchantment Trail. And he is in amongst the trees, and he sees on the ground right next to the trail, kind of in the bushes, this set of moose antlers. And he thinks, these are a great set of antlers. I'm close to a town. I'm going to pick these up. I'm going to carry them into town. I'm going to ship them home so I can put them on my wall. So he reaches down to pick up the moose antlers and finds out that they are still attached to a full-grown bull moose.
Oh, no.
So he spends the next 15 minutes dodging this moose, hiding behind a tree until the moose eventually forgets about him, and he's able to scamper off. But he thought he was just picking up some shed antlers, and he actually was picking up a bull moose. So a little bit of excitement there.
That's insane that like he was able to get that close and like kind of try and grab it and pick it up. Like it's like crazy. Like was it dark? Was it hiding in the bush? Like it's so crazy. And then it got up and came after him.
Yeah,
Jesus, he's lucky.
Yeah, yep. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Southern California. I'm still located in Southern California, about 40 miles north of Los Angeles. Have you heard of the Valley?
Yep.
Yes.
The Valley.
The Valley. I grew the Valley. That's right. I grew up in the Valley in the 80s, which I will just put out there. That is the best childhood ever. It was is an incredible upbringing. Had a lot of great times. A lot of time. I was a latchkey kid. Spent a lot of time on my own. Didn't do a lot of hiking during those times, but we used the footmobile to get around the valley and go to the mall and movies and whatever else. I grew up playing baseball. We did camping and water skiing during the summers. I grew up to be an English teacher, became a high school administrator. I was a high school principal for 11 years, and now I'm a district administrator at the district office dealing with HR stuff. So a lot of fun. It's always interesting. I took up running about 15 years ago. I ran a couple marathons and got those under my belt, and I thought, what's next? What is the next adventure? What is the next way that I can postpone death and stay in good shape? And I was talking to, at that time I was a principal, I was talking to my assistant principal, and we were just kicking ideas around, and he said, hey, have you ever heard of the John Muir Trail? We should do some hiking, some through hiking. And I said, what the heck is through hiking? And he says, well, this is when you put stuff on your back and you go out there and you're out there for multiple days hiking from one point to another. And so that's what we did. We gave it a shot. That was back in 2015, and I've been hooked ever since.
So your first hike ever was just we're going to do the John Muir through hike. No big deal. You had never done anything long distance at all before this point?
No, we did some training hikes, but it was all pretty much day hikes. We did an overnight on a segment of the PCT that's near our house, and just to try out the equipment, make sure we knew how it worked. And then our first hike, we didn't do the entire JMT in one fell swoop. We did the southern half of it. So we dropped it in the middle and then hiked south to Mount Whitney, 125 miles. So my first hike was 125 miles.
Holy.
And, it was epic.
No big deal. Just going in big.
You monster.
Yeah. Who are you and how did we land you on this small project?
Right.
Also, just on a personal note, are you okay?
It's a little bit of crazy. Yeah.
That's impressive. I mean, if the marathons weren't punishing enough.
Yeah, seriously. Most people don't even want to do a marathon, and you're like, what's next? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did your friend Doc, was he into hiking, or was he just he kind of researched it because you said what's next, or was this guy an avid hiker?
He was not an avid hiker. I think he like me. We did in our youth. He grew up doing some camping and some outdoor activities during the summer, but it wasn't a lifestyle.
Okay.
And as far as I know, he had not done any big hikes prior to this. I think we kind of learned it along the way and just jumped in with 2 feet.
Holy shit, that's awesome. That's like super awesome to hear. Yeah, you don't hear that because a lot of people now, again, we're the three of us are very new to even this through hiker topic and everything that I've been able to research. It's like people do extensive research for months for, anything of a, measurable trail, or like they'll do tons of workout hikes, or they start with day hikes and stuff. So that's crazy. Good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think for people who are into this, I think it ties in with obsessive personalities. You get in, you dive in, you grab on with both hands, and you wrestle with it for a while. And I think planning a through hike is half the fun, in my opinion. It's you're going over the logistics, where you're going to enter the trail, where you're going to resupply, how long it's going to take, where are your projected campsites along the way. Mm-hmm. But like Mike Tyson once said, everybody's got a game plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yep. In the mouth.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be hard to strip back the years in when you're forming this answer, but looking back on that first through hike, right? In the novelty, the newness of it. What was your biggest takeaway? Obviously you found your passion, and that's awesome. But what was your biggest takeaway from that first hike?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, we invited another guy with us, so there's 3 of us, and we all have trail names. So I'm Doc. The guy that got me, suggested the idea is Buddy, and then our friend is Chopper. He didn't have Chopper that particular moment, but he earned the trail name on a different hike, and I'll have to tell you about that story. But I think I had 2 takeaways. One is just the power of incremental progress, and I think that applies in real life. To your everyday activities, in that at the end of a day through hiking, you turn around and you look and you see the mountains in the distance, and you know that you started beyond those mountains. And just that realization of what the human body is capable of, and the fact that you can make that kind of progress just one step at a time, is very empowering. And it's the same thing in your everyday life, where you're working. You've got a huge project. You can't do it all at once. You have to take these incremental steps to make this huge change. And so I think that's one of the big takeaways for me. The other one is this whole thing about planning. Buddy had this idea of where we were going to camp each night, and we fell behind schedule, and so he was really panicked, and he was wanting us to really pick up the pace so we could make up the ground and get back on track. And I said to him, look, we planned for this. We're out here. This is our time to enjoy this experience. I am not going to put my head down and march, 25 miles a day and not enjoy the experience. And so that whole part about, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to kind of go with the punches. So that was the other takeaway.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I like how you brought up how you said you're not going to put your head down and just kind of bang out 25 miles. So a little bit about the 3 of us quickly, because I know this will be broadcasted on your show as well. The 3 of us come from like a uniform military background, and everything we did in the military is just kind of keep your head down and just one foot in front of another, and we don't really enjoy the view. So that's why I think trying to bring some of this information of through hiking to people in uniform, people out of uniform, but as a prepared mindset, it's like you said, it's more enjoyable, and it's just like taking it in and looking back on where you've gone. Because I know, speaking from my experience, most hikes, quote unquote hikes or patrols, it's literally just looking at the dude's like butt in front of you, and I'm just hoping to not die as we walk endlessly. So it's a very different mentality. And us out of uniform now, the 3 of us, we've been looking at this, and I'm like, man, these people enjoy this like subculture so much more, and it was just normalized to us professionally, but it wasn't enjoyable for most people. So it's super interesting to hear how your very first one, you're like, I'm not going to have my head down and bang out 25 miles. But like, I did that because I was told to. And that was like our norm at work. So.
Right. I'm smiling because at that first hike, we were hiking, pretty much in a line. Mm-hmm. And if you're not the front guy, all you're doing is looking down at that guy's calves in front of you. Yeah. I'm like, hey, Chopper, you got some nice calves, but let's change the order up. I want to see what's in front of us.
That's awesome.
So we actually learned from that too. We kind of rotated the who was walking first, and then also I learned that you don't have to hike 8 feet behind the person in front of you. I mean, everybody's got their own pace. It's okay to kind of spread out. And there were times in later hikes where we were, a quarter mile, half mile away from each other, but just enjoying the experience.
Who's taller of the three of you?
Oh, it goes Chopper, me, and then Buddy.
Okay, because I'm asking for us, for our hiking experience, if you're the short dude in the back, and I'm 6'4.5", like over 200 pounds, it's easy for me rucking with a pack on. But a little dude behind me hates his life. So yeah, we'd usually try and put the shorter dudes at the front, and then the taller guys at the back.
Very thoughtful.
Look, if people wanted to catch up, they'd catch up. Your comment, Doc, it really struck me about, taking, being able to look back and, look at the view and see what you've accomplished. Like Nomad was saying, I've had, I don't even know how many missions we went on when we were in Afghanistan. I don't know how many miles I've, trekked or flown or, whatever else, right? I do have 3 moments where I can remember taking a second to just look at the view. And, those have stuck with me for years. That's what's really important. So, I just, that's very impactful.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, there's a simplicity to it. There is the ability to decompress. There is, in regular life, it's complicated. It's busy. There's phones going off. There's appointments to keep. There's meetings. There's just all kinds of activities going on. Out on the trail, there is a simplicity of purpose. You are hiking to the next campsite. You're setting up camp. You're going to sleep. You're getting up, and you're doing the same thing. And if you do that enough times, you can cover a hell of a lot of distance, and do just amazing things. But you're also able to filter out all the other distractions, and be alone with your thoughts. Be able to work on stuff. Be able to work on yourself. It's a really transformative process.
Yeah, that's super awesome, and like we said, the 3 of us can definitely relate to that, just in a less enjoyable context for some of it. But I can appreciate, like you said, the beauty of it, and you're alone with yourself, and it's essentially like a battle against yourself. You're not competing against anybody else. It's just you versus you out there.
That's correct. And I often ask my guests on my podcast, what is more difficult? Is it the physical challenge of doing that hike, or is it the mental challenge? And more often than not, it is, it's the mental aspect. Mm-hmm. You're doing hard things out there. I mean, it's simple, but it's hard. Mm-hmm. It's simple in its purpose and what you're doing, but it's hard to just keep doing that day after day and doing the elevation change, especially if you're in the Sierras.
So that kind of covered part of my my question, which is going to be what were some of the challenges that people face when they're through hiking? So like the physical, the mental, the spiritual, the even financial challenges. And actually, what are some strategies to mitigate those challenges too?
Yeah, I think first of all, doing your research, listening to other hikers, listening to podcasts, seeing how they were able to accomplish this. I mean, I think efficacy is more than half the battle. If you know it can be done, then you have an easier time doing it. As an example, when the first person climbed El Capitan, right, it took them 18 months. Right, they would go up, they would get up so high, then they go back down for supplies, then they go up again, and they get a little bit further, they go back down for supplies, and so forth. And they said it could never be done, but it took 18 months. And now, once that has been done, once it was accomplished, 18 months, then the next person to do it, it was like 2 days. And now you have Alex Honnold doing it in like 3 hours with no equipment. And so, just understanding that it's possible and finding out how other people did it, that's a huge help.
Yeah. The grit for me, because you said mm-hmm. the biggest challenge, in my opinion, it's always going to be mental, right? Because you're mm-hmm. the only person that can quit yourself. You're the only one that can quit you. Everybody else, doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or does, you can go on, but if you quit yourself, then it doesn't matter what the challenge is, great or small, right. You know what the outcome is. So pushing past that, mm-hmm. Forcing yourself, bargaining, whatever you need to do to make it happen. It's all, it's all in you, so it's huge.
So sometimes you have to do point to point hiking. Right? You can't look at the big picture. You can't look at, I've got to get 150 miles that way. It's like, I got to get to that next tree. And then once you get to that tree, I got to get to the next tree. and so on and so forth. And to steal a bit of advice from Jeff Oliver, also known as IBTAT, he said, never quit on a bad day. If you're going to quit on your own terms. Don't let a bad day do you in.
This week's episode is brought to you by FieldSeats.com. FieldSeats.com is an e-commerce, federally licensed firearms dealer. They provide virtual reviews on brand new firearms, optics, and gear, where at the end of the review, they give away the item being reviewed to an attendee.
Currently, they've got reviews ranging from the Shadow Systems MR920 for $35, the Springfield M1A for $65, or Chichicon ACOG with RMR for $60. Each review has limited seating, so your chances of winning the giveaway are that much higher.
Check out FieldSeats.com to purchase your reviews and enter to win the item being reviewed, and use code STRONGMEN to get 10% off your order.
Be sure to check out their Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at field_seats for updates on products and other tips and info.
Use code STRONGMEN to receive 10% off your entire purchase at FieldSeats.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Thanks for listening, guys. Now back to the episode. Stay in the fight.
I just wanted to ask before we get further down our hole of impossible, not hardball questions, but how would you define through hiking, Doc? Because whenever we were talking about bringing you on, and I was doing some research, a lot of people have different definitions of what a through hike actually is. Because from our perspective, outside looking in, we've never done a through hike. Obviously, the three of us from a military background, everyone that we had talked to about it, they just said, oh, it's people who do insane distances where they cut as much weight as possible. That was the key phrase that kept coming up. They're doing it as light as possible. So how would you define through hiking for someone who doesn't really know what it is?
Well, if you look it up on Wikipedia, which I did in preparation because I knew this question was coming. Through hiking is the act of hiking an established long distance trail end to end continuously. Now, it doesn't specify, what long distance trail is.
Yeah, it's pretty broad of a definition again.
Yeah, there is the Great Western Loop, which we talked about, 6,800 miles. That's pretty darn long. But there's other hikes that are considered through hikes, like the Trans-Catalina Trail. It's on Catalina Island off the coast of Southern California, and it's 38 miles. And it's point to point. I mean, you're hiking across the island multiple days. It's nowhere near 6,800 miles, but it's a through hike. I mean, so you don't have to have this image in your mind of I've got to do 1,000 miles to be considered a through hiker. There's all different distances, and basically you're carrying everything you need on your back for the trip. Your sleep system, your shelter system, your food, your water. The longer hikes, you're going to be able to resupply in different towns or different outposts where they have a store. Get some new food. In fact, on the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail, or the Continental Divide Trail, or the Appalachian Trail, hikers will actually ship themselves in advance. They'll schedule shipments to different post offices along the way of food and supplies. And so when they get to that point, they'll go into the post office. They'll pick up their package. They'll hold it for the post office will hold it for a certain amount of time. They'll pick up their package, resupply, and keep on going. Yeah, there's a label of hiker trash, right? And you would think that if someone called you hiker trash, that'd be offensive, but it's actually a badge of honor. It is it's part of the culture, and it's embraced. And back to IBTAT, Jeff Oliver, he was wearing a hat that said hiker trash on it. I said, I got to get myself a hat. And he goes, Doc, you can't just get this hat. You have to earn this hat.
Nice.
Not anybody can be a hiker trash. And I said, well, what is your definition? What's the criteria for being hiker trash? And he said, well, my criteria is you have to spend at least one night in an outhouse while you're out on the trail.
Oh my God.
So that was his hiker trash moment. He knew that he had reached that level.
That level of earning that call sign hiker trash because you've slept in an outhouse for one night.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What do you think is so appealing about this, Doc, to people whenever they first hear it? Is it the challenge, or not even the challenge, but the feeling of accomplishment after the challenge because it is so sought after, because it's such a hard thing to do?
Yeah, I think it appeals to different people for different reasons. A lot of people I talk to, they hear about trails that go from Mexico to Canada.
Yeah.
The PCT 2,600 miles, CDT, depending on which route you take, is 3,100 miles. And at that point, it kind of gets into their brain and it just kind of burrows in. And for some people, it takes 3 months and they decide they've got to do it. Other people, it festers for 10 years. Talk about your military background. One of my favorite guests, he's a repeat customer on the podcast, Ben Vaughn, trail name Ginger Balls. It's a whole nother story. But he was a lieutenant commander in the Navy, and he had heard about the Appalachian Trail, and he thought about it for 10 years. And he decided that he was going to do that when he retired. So when he retired from the Navy, he sold everything. He got his gear, and he was a military guy. So he believed in, redundancy and having not just a backup of everything, but maybe a backup for the backup. Yeah. And so one of my favorite stories is he shows up to the AT, to Springer Mountain in Georgia, which is the southern terminus, and he's getting ready to get on trail, and he's carrying this 60 to 65 pound pack. And he runs into a guy he's 21 years old at the time, Scrapbook. And Scrapbook, unbeknownst to Ginger Balls, this is Scrapbook's third long-distance trail in America, which is going to make him a triple crowner when he finishes this. So he knows the ropes. His pack is about 13 pounds. And this is the funniest moment in my mind, because I've had both of them on the podcast. They've both described this moment where they're looking at each other and they're thinking to themselves, this guy is not going to make it. Right? Ginger Balls is thinking this guy's not going to make it because he doesn't have enough stuff.
Yeah.
And Scrapbook is saying, oh, this guy, he's going to die from the weight he's carrying. So
13 pounds to 65. That's like that's black and white.
Insane.
That like there isn't even a middle ground there. There's no 80% solution. Yeah. That's like the two extremes.
That's the two extremes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But we talked about a little bit earlier. Daily life is complicated. Through hiking is simple. Mm-hmm. It's hard, but it's simple. Hiking in nature, it's satisfying. There's that power of incremental progress that we talked about. A lot of people out on the trail, they're figuring stuff out. There are a lot of veterans on the trail that have a little bit of PTSD, very serious issue, that they've got things in their life that they need to figure out, and they're out there on the trail doing it. You are spending the most time with yourself in your head when you're out on the trail. Excuse me. Also, we talked about the transformational power of nature. There's just kind of a regeneration. You feel rejuvenated. I think it's almost a return to where we're from. Mm-hmm. I caught myself in one episode talking to a guest and saying, "Hey, what do you do in the real world?" And what I meant was civilized life, right? But in saying that, I realized that I think all of the civilization we have up around us, all of the artificial things that we have in our life, that's probably the opposite of real life. I think real life is more accurately portrayed on the trail, being out in nature. There's a it's almost like it's calling to you.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the mistakes or misconceptions surrounding the idea through hiking?
I think that a lot of through hikers may be labeled by their friends or society as people who have chosen to drop out, that they're crazy, that they're unmotivated, that they're unproductive, lazy. And if people understood the physical and the mental demands of doing what they're doing, I think that would maybe change their perception of that.
Yeah, it seems like it's the exact opposite. You got to be so super focused and so determined just to get from point A to point B, and even from this tree to that tree. Like, I can remember doing some of this stuff in the Army. What's not even remotely close to this long, but it was just like anytime we'd do a 12-miler, I'd just be like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this, and I'd just be counting like the 8-mile markers and just keep going and going to the next one and the next one and the next one until finally I'm just like, oh, I'm done. Thank God. I'm gonna go home and collapse.
Yeah, it's funny that before that first hike in 2015 on the John Muir Trail, I worked with the guy we were going to go on the trip with, and so we would talk about this all the time, and we'd have our doubts about can we do this? I mean, how hard is this going to be? We're carrying everything, we're going to be at altitude, and we would always arrive back to the comforting fact of, hey, we're just walking. All we're doing is walking, and you know what? If we get tired, we sit down, and then we keep walking. We'll just keep walking. But it's a fast day on the trail under pack at elevation is 3 miles an hour. And so if you want to go, 15 miles, we convince ourselves that's just 5 hours. It was never 5 hours. It was always a lot longer than 5 hours. But sometimes it got down to a mile an hour or less if we were hiking, if you were post-holing in snow, which is a whole lot of no fun. It would take forever. But, we did it. We made it. We survived.
Did you know anything about, obviously because you did like a couple like training hikes, you said, but I like the story you brought up between the retired lieutenant colonel at a 65-pound pack and a 13-pound. Did you understand like what base weight was or dry weight before you started? Like, did you have an idea of what a pack should weigh, like in the thru hiking world?
Not really. I just knew that when I put on my pack at the beginning of the trip that it was too much. It weighed too much. And every step after that, you're thinking, how can I shed some weight? Mm-hmm. Or what am I going to do differently next trip? How can I get some gear that is lighter than this? And so, and that's also maybe a deterrent for folks. They think that to get lightweight, durable gear, it's pretty pricey. Mm-hmm. But I think that shouldn't be an impediment. I think you should start with whatever you have. Start with whatever you have. Get out there, experience it, and then over time, incrementally, again, the power of incremental progress. Make some adjustments in what you're carrying. For birthday or Christmas, you ask the family for a tent or a backpack or a quilt instead of a sleeping bag, and you just kind of you make incremental progress on your pack.
Thinking back to your first trail and all the knowledge and experience that you've gained along the way, what does your prep work look like now? When you're getting ready, you've decided that you want to do a certain trail. What does your prep work look like for the guys that aren't familiar with thru hiking or hiking in general? What does that look like for them so they can actually get started?
So my first piece of advice for anybody out there who's planning on doing this is to pair up with someone who is very obsessive about the details and logistics, so you don't have to worry about it. You have a friend that does that. Buddy and Chopper, they're both kind of those personalities, and so that's been helpful for me to just I know I've got my gear, I know what it feels like, I know what this is gonna kind of be like, and in terms of proposed campsites or resupplying, those guys really dial it in. But I think just in preparation, you don't want to go out on the trail the first day without having any kind of physical prep prior to. So leading up to the hike, a couple months leading up to the hike, get out there, start hiking, doing a lot of elevation change, do your local mountains, some local trails. The last month before, put on your pack, put some stuff in your pack, carry some weight around, get used to that feeling on your back. Because if you just show up on the first day not having had any kind of physical prep and you're slinging on that pack for the first time, it could be a miserable first couple of days.
What's your usual loadout for doing something like that? Like your packed food, your water, your first aid, extra clothing, survival equipment, stuff like that. What do you usually have in your pack?
So me in particular, or someone who's doing, I've never done one of the 3 American long trails. My longest stint has been 125 miles. But if you're talking, me, what I carry in my pack, are you talking about in those thru hikers that are going long distances?
Yes, either. Whichever you want to do.
All right.
Let's go off your experience first.
Yeah.
All right. So you have your pack. My pack is I think 50 liters in capacity. Inside of that, you're going to be putting your shelter system, whether that's a tent or a tarp or a bivvy. You're going to be putting in your sleep system, which is going to include either a sleeping bag or a quilt, along with some kind of sleeping pad, and that could be a closed foam pad, or it could be an inflatable sleeping pad. And then you're going to have at least one extra pair of underwear and socks. It's up to you if you bring an additional set of pants or rain pants or shorts or another shirt. Probably a jacket or a windbreaker of some sort to protect you against the elements. Of course, You'll want a medical kit. Now, medical kits can range in size and scope. I've seen some people have, a full-on,
A full-on trauma.
Red Cross.
Yeah, like
full trauma pack,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably would have been ginger balls on that first hike. Scrapbook probably would have showed up with a pill bottle with several ibuprofen, some Band-Aids, and duct tape wrapped around his water bottle base. Mm-hmm. That would be a good first aid kit for the experienced thru hiker. And then you're gonna have your food and your water. You're gonna have a water filtration device because you can't carry enough water for 2,200 miles. You can't carry enough water for 125 miles. You're gonna have to filter water along the way, and so you can have a squeeze bag. You can have a gravity filter where you're filling up 2 or 3 liters of water into this sack, and you hang it on a tree branch, and it filters down through a filter into your water bottle, which is what I would carry. I carry a gravity filter.
Okay.
And then of course trekking poles. And a lot of people who haven't used trekking poles might think, I'm gonna look funny using trekking poles. Trekking poles are for old people. Trekking poles are not for old people. Trekking poles are for hikers. They save your knees. They help you on the uphills because you almost have it's like a handrail, right? You're pulling on. You're using your arms to help pull yourself up the hill, and it also saves your knees on the downhills.
In terms of packs, because everyone, again, like from us looking on the outside in, whenever I was researching all this, they're counting ounces, they're cutting everything. Do you have a frameless pack, Doc? Is that's pretty common, right, for actual thru hiking? They go frameless for packs.
Yeah, the lighter weight's going to be frameless,
Okay.
so your longer distance hikers are going to go with a frameless pack. I've used a Granite Gear Crown 60, which was very good. I've also used Outdoor Vitals gear, which is great. Six Moon Designs have great packs as well. There's a lot of great frameless backpacks out there.
And then, like in reference to the quilt, again, for some of the people listening to our show who don't know, because when I looked into this, it's essentially you can close it to make it a sleeping bag or open it up to make it a blanket. And when I researched it, a lot of guys go for the quilt because it's lighter, and then they'll wear their clothing if they get cold so they can wait for a sleeping bag, correct? That's what a lot of guys are doing?
Yeah, and like sleeping bags, you can get quilts that are rated to different temperatures. So you can get yourself a 10-degree quilt, and it's got usually they're at the bottom of the quilt, it has a foot box. So you can get your feet in there so they kind of stay warm, and you tuck it around you. Sleeping bags, if you are a side sleeper in particular, I mean, it can be pretty constrictive and awkward at times, right? But with a quilt, you can really spread out and just tuck it in around the sleeping pad and stay nice and warm.
I was thinking too, Doc, about the quilts. When I was looking into it, isn't part of the idea that with sleeping bags, the insulation is compressed if you're as you're lying on it. So with the quilt, if you're not getting benefit from that extra material, it just cuts down on material, on weight, space.
It does. Quilts are much lighter than your average sleeping bag, so that's another way to cut weight. Again, it's a little bit of a price increase depending on what quilt you get, but incremental progress on that backpacking gear. Yeah, there are some guys out there. I asked them how crazy they are just to get a sense. I asked them, do you cut your toothbrush in half, or do you drill holes in the handle of your toothbrush?
I do that. For my toothbrush.
That gives us some insight into how nutso you are.
So, what are some of the more common or not so common trails that we have around here?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of hiking out in the world, and so I think we talked about the 3 big American trails: the AT, the CDT, the PCT. If you do all 3 of those, you become a triple crowner, like Ginger Balls and Scrapbook. They're both now triple crowners. There are about 300 plus, maybe closer to 400 now, triple crowners all time.
Damn.
If you do all 3 of those trails in 1 year, so it's about 7,800 miles, you do them in 1 calendar year, then you've become a calendar year triple crowner.
How many people have done that?
And there's about 20 all time. About 20 all time. We had 4 new ones last year, and we had an episode air about a month ago on the podcast where I interviewed all 4 at the same time. And my co-host at the time was Jeff Legend Garmeyer, who was also a calendar year triple crowner and just a total character. And so that was real fun to talk to those guys and their different approaches to how they were going to accomplish getting all 3 of those trails in one calendar year. We had one guy who started January 1st and finished like December 15th. So it took like the entire year. He was out there hiking. Another guy started out on the AT, and he decided halfway along the AT that he was going to do all 3 in the same year. And he started in like late March. And so he was pretty impressive that he was able to complete those 3 in like 8.5 months. And again, you asked about, maybe you didn't ask. Maybe it's a future question I'm getting to already, but I'm gonna blow the cover off.
Yeah, for
of
sure.
It. Any peculiar traits or tendencies or traditions on the trail? We talked about trail names. The 4 guys who did it last year, the calendar Triple Crown, one was Kansas Express, one was the Professor, one was Quadzilla, and the other was Boomerang from Germany. So very colorful characters. So now the oldest American long trail is ironically called the Long Trail, and that's in Vermont. It was established in 1909, and it's 273 miles long, and it's 273 tough miles.
Oh yeah, in Vermont, it's very non-forgiving country there. Is it? It's not even the elevation. I was gonna say, is it a lot of like closed country? Like there's a lot of bush on this trail, I'm assuming.
There's bush. There's like ladders bolted onto rocks, boulders.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of just manhandling yourself to get up and down over stuff.
That's super awesome. Yeah, there's one in Canada too. It's on Vancouver Island called West Coast Trail. Have you heard of it, Doc? It's pretty.
I have not heard of West Coast Trail.
Yeah, if you look it up, it's pretty famous. A lot of people around the world come and do it, and I've done it once. And actually, ironically enough, most of the people I saw on the trail were not even from Canada. They're from Australia or Europe. And there's literally ladders, and this is obviously Canada doesn't really have rainforest, but this section of Vancouver Island, it is on a rainforest. It's through a rainforest, and it's right along the Pacific Ocean. And there's ladders literally bolted everywhere, and you're climbing. And same thing, I did it with a Mystery Ranch pack that probably weighed 48 pounds, and there was like 120-pound Australian chick with a 18-pound pack looking at me like I was gonna die.
Nomad Summer 2024, you and me, West Coast Trail. Let's do it.
I am down. Sign me up. That is literally my backyard.
All right,
I will do it. It's funny because before we had you on, Doc, I've been trying to convince a friend of mine that I was in the military with for years to do the Appalachian Trail, and he always bugs me. Every year I bug him. I'm like, dude, we need to do this. And he's like, man, we rocked for a job, like professionally, for over a decade. Why would we want to do that? And I'm trying to explain to him everything you brought up today, just the sense of accomplishment, or how many people haven't done it, or how many people have tried and fail, or the logistics of it alone. Because I'm super OCD with planning, and I'm like, I would love to plan that, or just like the financial commitment outside of work, or your, like you said, your quote unquote your day job, your real life, to block time out and do this. I'm like, that would be something you would like remember for years, because so many people want to do it but never do it. I haven't been able to convince him yet, but he's turning 50 soon, and I keep bugging him saying we got to do something sweet for his 50th. So try and convince him to do a crazy through hike.
Yeah, and I think that's our imperative, is to collect memories for when we're sitting in that rocker on the porch, right? You don't want to be sitting there thinking about all the days you worked, and you want to stockpile some great memories about some just outrageous things that you've done out there.
Yeah, you got to have stories to tell your kids and grandkids.
Absolutely.
Get mauled by a bear on the Appalachian Trail. Die like a man.
I have written into our living trust that my ashes are to be spread up on Forester Pass on the John Muir Trail. So
nice.
I give my kids a good bonding opportunity to get up there and do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, not just in the U.S. I mean, there's a lot of hiking all over the world as well. In Europe, you've got the Camino de Santiago. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I have. I've heard of that one. It's very famous as well. Tons of people travel to hit it up.
That's right. It's a religious pilgrimage trail in France and Spain. There are many different routes. The most famous, most popular is the French Way, and it's about 485 miles. It is very different than through hiking, though. It's not the same as through hiking, because you don't have to carry anything on your back other than maybe some very basic stuff, because you spend the night in hostels along the way, and at the end of each day you find a pub. I mean, so you've got a pint and some food, and you've got a hostel to sleep in. You're not carrying all that stuff on your back. So very civilized.
Hard Time Strongman 2027.
There you go.
Yeah, it's just super interesting how there's so many, again, like different countries, different cultures, different like subgroups who have all wanted to pursue this type of activity, and it's just crazy that it draws so many people. And again, when I was looking at your last few posts, depending on when this gets released, Doc, but I know you were talking to a girl. She was turned 18 on the trail, or just was turning 18. I'm like, that's insane. That at 18 years old, this chick knew. She's like, "Yeah, I'm banging out a through hike, and that's what I want to do." So it's so interesting that these are just so many different types of people, and it appeals to a lot of people now.
Yeah, her name was Moxie. Trail name was Moxie, and being 18 and on the trail is one thing. Being an 18-year-old girl or an 18-year-old woman on the trail, that is a whole next level experience, because I talked to a number of female thru hikers, and I almost feel guilty because they talk about stuff that I wouldn't even think of. I wouldn't even think about planning on sleeping in shelters that are the furthest from main transportation routes. She didn't want to sleep in a shelter that was too close to the road because she thought that invited some kind of mischief on the part of someone passing by wanting to do bad things. That's not something that would even enter into my mind. And so just being an 18-year-old female on the trail, big props to her. Big props to her parents. I mean, imagine convincing your parents to be able to do something like that and trust in you and trust in your abilities.
How big is the through hiking community?
Well, I think it has kind of exploded since the release of Wild.
Oh,
The
yeah.
story by Cheryl Strayed, the book, and then the movie with Reese Witherspoon. I think that kind of injected into mainstream consciousness, and there are more people than ever on the trails out there. I think in terms of success rate, even though there's more people out there, I think like on the AT, I think the success rate last year has been a steady 25%. So only 25% of the people who start out at the beginning actually end up finishing for one reason or another. Yeah.
For a lot of this stuff, do you think it's like the financial commitment, or it's like I wouldn't imagine it's injury, or possibly could be. Is injury pretty high on like the AT, or is it just how long it takes to complete this?
Yeah, I think in terms of why people quit.
Yeah, specifically for the Appalachian, just because like you specifically know the stat that like only 25% of people actually complete it.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of different factors. One is maybe they didn't realize what it was going to be like. Mm-hmm. Could have been the first time out there, and they decided, whether 10 miles in or 500 miles in, that this just wasn't for them. Or, 2,200 miles, that's a long way. And doing 15, 20 miles day after day after day, that does take a physical toll. A lot of issues with blisters, shin splints, foot injuries, knee injuries, exhaustion. Sometimes it takes longer than they thought it was going to take, and they have to get back to what their responsibilities are, not in the real world, but in civilized world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of different reasons. I think maybe some barriers that prevent people from actually taking up through hiking. I think there's some fears out there. They think, it's too hard for me. I can't do it. I'm not an athlete. And I can tell you, I've talked to a lot of people who weren't necessarily what you would consider to be your typical athlete, who have walked 2,600 miles and completed this. So that shouldn't be a barrier for you if you don't think you're an athlete. It is a big time commitment. It's expensive to get light, durable, quality gear. Some folks might be afraid of the wildlife out there. On the AT, number of bears out there. On the CDT, you get into big bears like grizzlies in Montana and Wyoming, and moose, or the meese as Nomad referred to them. Yeah. I talked to other people who may be considering it, but they're like, I could never poop in the woods. I don't want to poop in the woods. So that's also a possible barrier. It's only the first time that's the hardest. After that, you're
it's
like,
easy.
Whatever.
Yeah, as soon as you let it rip once, it's like you can't poop at home now. That's all you know is outside.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you, best bathroom views ever.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you cannot beat the bathroom view.
We pooped
Just
in
the
some weird
crispness of
places.
the air.
Yeah.
Fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Doc, so, it's kind of out of order, or I don't even know if it's listed on one of our questions, but just on the medical side, that's interesting to me. So, have you heard or have you used any, like trail through hiking remedies or just anything that you think is beneficial, anything that kind of fits in that niche? Like an example, so Nomad was talking about his time in the service, what they would do is for their feet, if they knew they
taping my
had to
feet. Yeah.
so if they had to make a long movement, they would actually duct tape their feet where you have those problems, those problem areas, those heat spots, those rough spots to prevent blisters. Not for the long term, obviously, but a short term fix. So have you heard of anything like that? Used anything like that?
Yeah, part of your medical kit needs to be like moleskin to take care of those hot spots. Also, duct tape wrapped around the bottom of your water bottle. You can use that in a medical situation. You can also use it in a gear situation. It's a great gear saver to be able to have that duct tape on hand. And you need to pay attention to your feet because if your feet aren't happy, you're not going to be happy. It's going to be a miserable experience. You got to pay attention to those hot spots and take the time to maybe dry out your feet and get the appropriate moleskin or duct tape in the right spot to see if you can make a difference there. I know a lot of people think that, okay, I'm hiking. I'm going to be a hiker, so I need to wear boots. And I'll tell you that the trend is not to wear boots out there, especially on the long trails. It's trail runners. You're wearing tennis shoes that maybe have a beefed up rock plate underneath it. They dry out quicker. They're easier on the foot. Some of them, like the ultras, have a wider toe box, so your feet aren't squished in there. And they're as you walk for long distances, your feet are going to expand. And if you're wearing a tight shoe or a tight boot, as that foot expands, it's going to cause more hot spots and more problems for you.
I'm really glad you brought that up because in my time in uniform, I used to get in arguments with people all the time because I wore a trail runner before it was cool to do so. I wore like Solomon's, and I just got them in like brown or tan, and I wouldn't wear a high boot because of that exact reason. Wearing the heavy boot caused me more issues than the fear of rolling my ankle. And again, everyone's shaped differently, but I've noticed that as well. The trend in through hiking, everyone has a trail runner. That's like the common thing. No one is wearing an actual backpacker boot because it's insane. They're way too heavy.
Yeah, two things on that. They did a study because people would say, well, I need the ankle support because if I don't have the ankle support, I'm gonna injure myself. They actually did a comprehensive study on a season of through hiking with people who wore boots and people who wore through hikers. There was no measurable difference between injuries amongst the trail runners and the boots. So there's that. And then the other piece is that they say that every pound on your foot is like an extra 5 on your back.
Oh,
Wow.
I
So if
believe
you're wearing
it. Yeah.
big heavy boots, I mean, that just makes a bigger takes a bigger toll on your endurance out there.
In terms of, I know you were talking about like the hygiene thing. You said people just don't get soap and stuff. But when you are going out that long, just to jump back on what Seven was saying for a medical thing, because you've been talking to a lot of people about this for a long time, have people gotten any like crazy rashes though, or like any weird infections because they're not clean because it's been so long? Like I just imagine when you do 2,200 miles, like obviously you're mailing yourself clothing and you may go into town and shower, like that stuff, but there's got to be something bad happening to your body if you're wearing the same dirty clothes for 100 miles and not showering, I would assume.
People are, I mean, they take opportunities to jump into lakes and clean up that way. They are taking opportunities when they get to town. They'll typically take a 0, which is a day of no hiking. They'll get to a town, they'll take a 0, they'll resupply, they'll wash their clothes in the local laundromat, they'll take a shower in the hotel. I do have some pretty gnarly stories. One from IB Tad about some serious chafe between his legs where things were bleeding that normally aren't bleeding. Just absolutely horrifying story. Probably NC-17, but just getting chafe where you don't want to get chafe.
Yeah.
Any weird rituals with through hiking? Thing you think of, Doc? Any like thing pertinent to the culture?
Other than like
That people wouldn't understand. So like I like the code name, the trail
code
name.
name. Yeah, the
Is
trail
there
names
anything
are
that's
cool.
that's just like inherent to the community?
Yeah, I would, that's the main thing that jumps out is the unique American tradition of assigning trail names. Trail names can be based on maybe where you're from, maybe a peculiarity you might have, or something that happened to you on the trail. one of the guys I talked to, his trail name was 127, and he was hiking by himself. He was going southbound on the AT, and he was crossing a bridge, a bridge made up of two logs, and there was a bunch of leaves on the bridge, and he slipped through with one of his legs up to he's basically straddling a log now. His leg went through the crack between the two of them, and he can't get out. He can't get his knee is bigger than the opening. I don't know how it worked out, but he was stuck, and he thought, well, I'll just, someone's going to come along. Someone's going to help me. And he waited, and nobody came, and so eventually he kind of wriggled back and forth, got close enough to the far end to grab a rock off of the opposing side, and he kind of wedged it in between the two logs to make it a little bit wider until he was able to pull out his leg, and he got out of there. But he told that story when he finally caught up with his buddies, and they said, "Oh, you're like that guy from the movie 127 Hours." And so his name went from 127 hours to 127 to eventually 127. A great story. Usually there's a great story behind every trail name. Legend picked up his trail name because they were hiking out of Idlewild, and they had gone like 10 miles or something, and they realized that they did not resupply enough, or they didn't pick up enough food. And so he volunteered to go back and get pizza for the group. And they're like, there's no way. You're not going to go back and get pizza and then come rejoin us. And he did. He got back with the pizza for everybody. And they're like, oh,
legend.
You're a legend.
Wow.
And that's how the name stuck. I think one of the other big traditions or big aspects to the thru hiking community is just how positive and supportive it is. And you would think that, being out there amongst strangers, that there'd be this natural, emotional space between you. There'd be distance, social distance, and it's not true. In fact, thru hikers are more likely to run into a stranger out there and tell them their deepest, darkest secret that they have not told a family member or their best friend back home. And the person who's listening is not likely to recoil and shun this person, but to in turn share their deepest, darkest secret and do some trauma bonding out there and become the best of friends who are still in touch with each other, 10, 15, 20 years later.
Yeah, it's super awesome. It's just a much more positive culture compared to a lot of other outdoor industries, especially for newcomers coming in. I'm glad you brought that up, where, like you said, you could not know anything but find a buddy who does, and they'll take you under their wing, essentially, and then you'll meet people out there on the trail, and it's just much more positive. It's not like shaming. It's not the term we like to use on our show is in the tactical community, we always use the word gatekeeping. Everyone wants to gatekeep information and not share it, but it's thru hiking's the complete opposite. They're willing to help each other. So
yeah, the trail is the great equalizer. Mm-hmm. The trail doesn't care. It doesn't care if you came from a mansion in Beverly Hills. It doesn't care if you came from the projects. The trail is the trail, and you are just another person out there. You're another person struggling to get by, struggling to get to the next tree, and everybody's out there supportive. They understand because they're going through the same thing with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes me think of your comment about looking back on the mountains. How small it makes you think how small you are. When looking back and you see this mountain range, and it's like, wow, I've gone so far, and you look over the rest of the horizon, it's like I've gone nowhere.
That's right.
So, pretty cool. Yeah. Do you have a favorite story, either from your own experience or from people that you've talked to? I mean, you've talked to all kinds of people from all walks of life, and this is such a great community, like you said, where like you said, the trail's the great equalizer. Everybody, it doesn't matter where you are, where you come from, but your feet slapping the ground. So, do you have a favorite story?
I have a couple of stories. One is from a guest on a podcast, and another is from my own experience. One of my favorite stories from the podcast is from Wesley Tills. He was a Mormon missionary who got assigned to a town in Northern California to do his missionary work. And he was out there. He was doing the job. He was knocking on doors. He's trying to, share information with the community. And after a few days, he's just like, this is not me. This is not who I am. I'm not feeling this. I don't know what to do. So he decides he's going to go to a nearby temple, Mormon temple, and he's going to pray on it. So he goes to the temple. He's there for a couple of days. And during this time, he looks up and he sees a map of California on the wall. And running along that map of California, north to south, is this wiggly red line. And he goes closer and he looks at it and he sees it's something called the Pacific Crest Trail. And it's not that far away from where he is. And he takes that as a sign from God that that's what he's supposed to be doing. And so he goes back to where he's staying. I don't know if he's staying with a family or where it is, but he goes back and he tells his partner this is what he's going to do. He's leaving missionary work. He is going to get on the trail. And one way or another, the Mormon church finds out about this, and so they send a recovery team out to the house to get him, to bring him back in. And he gets wind of this. He hears about this. And so he throws everything into his backpack, gets onto his bike, and just heads for the woods. And he escapes into the forest and doesn't look back. He's hiked all of the major, he's a triple crowner. He's hiked all the major trails now. And his episode on the podcast was called The Runaway Missionary. And he still gets calls. This is like 20 years ago. He still gets calls from people in the Mormon faith, current missionaries, who the legend of Wesley Tills has grown over the years. He gets calls where people are asking him, "Is it true that you stole a police car to escape the church?" And it's just the yarn gets bigger every time it gets told. So
I was gonna say, are they still after him?
I don't know. He's looking over his shoulder still.
Goodness.
Oh my God.
Like, if you go that far, you have to be running from something,
That's right. The other story I like to tell is how Chopper got his name.
Okay, this will be good. I'm assuming.
This will be good. You can assume that a chopper's involved, and you'd be correct in that assumption.
No.
So we did a hike. It was me and Chopper and my son Jukebox. Jukebox is Jukebox because he can sing anything from the 80s, 90s, even probably in the 70s. Every word, just knows it. I don't know how. I raised him right. He knows the tunes.
Awesome.
So he can sing from memory, which is very handy to have out there on the trail. But we did a little trail called Mineral King Loop in the Sequoia National Forest. And there are two main passes in the Mineral King Loop. And one is Black Rock Pass. The other one is Sawtooth Pass. And they're both about, I think, 11,000, 12,000 feet. So the first day was a hell of a day. It's just it's like a 3 or 4 day hike. And first day, it's a lot of elevation change. You're getting acclimated to the altitude. My thighs were cramping up at one point. I had like an air horn with me that I brought just in case of a large animal I had to scare away. I called it the bear horn. And the two of them, Jukebox and Chopper, they were, they had disappeared up in the distance. I'd lost sight of them, and I'm just struggling up this last piece as we're trying to end the day. Both legs are cramping up. I am absolutely miserable. I'm blowing the bear horn because they're out of sight. I'm trying to get my son to come back and help carry the pack or something. Nobody shows up, but we get to camp and we build camp and everything goes fine. I get recharged. Chopper and Jukebox were hiking like it was nobody's business. They're having a great time. The next day, we have to go over Black Rock Pass, and it's straight up from where we're camping. So we break camp early, and we're heading up, and we're about 3/4 of the way up. And Chopper, who at that time was just Dan is struggling. He's not feeling well. He's bending over like every 100 yards, taking a big breather. He's throwing up like every 10 minutes. Just not doing well. We get to the top finally of Black Rock Pass, and we take a break. We have some lunch, take it easy for about a half an hour. He is still struggling. He's not feeling any better. His head hurts. He's just really in bad shape. And so we all think at this point that he has altitude sickness. And so, the best thing for altitude sickness, the only cure for altitude sickness is to get down, right? So we get down off the pass. We struggle. It's like a zombie walk for him down to Little Five Lakes area. And luckily, there's a ranger station in Little Five Lakes. And we finally get down. It's probably a 3 or 4 mile hike from the top down to somewhere in the vicinity of a lake down there, and some shade. And he kind of collapses, and we take his pack off, and he's laying by the side of the path there. Bugs are swarming. He doesn't care. They're all, mosquitoes all over him. And Jukebox says, there's a ranger station about 3/4 of a mile away. He's going to go run. He drops his pack. He goes to run. He goes and gets the ranger, who happens to be at the ranger station, luckily. And they come back. He's got this radio with an antenna that's probably, 12, 15 feet long. It's just ridiculously big antenna. And he comes and he takes Chopper's vitals and calls into the local medical center that's, outside of the park. He's talking to doctors there, and Chopper takes it easy. He gets hydrated, and we're able to proceed to the ranger station. We decide we're going to kind of camp overnight at the ranger station, in the vicinity of the ranger station, and see how he feels in the morning to make a decision on how we're going to go. And the ranger comes back and says, the doctors have been in touch with me again, and it's just not safe enough, because Black Rock Pass being 12,000 feet and Sawtooth Pass being 12,000 feet, we're in between those two passes, and we're about probably 10,000 feet. And so we're just not low enough for the doctors to be comfortable with Chopper getting any better, because the only cure, again, is to get lower. So he had to do the walk of shame to the helicopter as it landed. It came in and landed. And I was praying, I was hoping that they would like duct tape him to the skids or something and haul him out that way. But no, they put him in a flight suit, and he got to ride in the helicopter, which is really just very disappointing. But they flew him out of there, and they dropped him just outside of the park where there was an ambulance waiting, and then the ambulance took him the rest of the way to Visalia Medical Center, where I guess it was a hopping night in Visalia, because there was all kinds of people in the emergency room with various levels of trauma going on. By the time Dan reached the medical center, I mean, he was feeling great. He was down. He was feeling fine. He had to call his wife, who was on the beach in Malibu somewhere, who had to then drive 5 hours north to go pick him up from Visalia. And all the while, he's sitting there, just feeling great, hanging out with all the other trauma patients. But he certainly earned the trail name Chopper.
Wow.
Every single trail name that you brought up, though, they're like good stories. They're not like really bad names. Like the Army, you get really nickname, but these are all like cool, like call signs or trail names. So at least there's that for Chopper.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about trail names is when you meet somebody new and they say, "Hey, what's your trail name?" I mean, if somebody gave you a crappy trail name, you don't have to keep it.
Yeah,
you're never going to see that person again, right? So you could say, "Hey, I'm Doc," or "I'm Chopper," and they don't know the difference.
Yeah. You said your initial plan, like how many miles a day would you say that you have averaged when you've done your through hikes?
When my son and I did the southern half of the JMT, that 125-mile stretch, we did it in just over 7 days. It was like 7.5 days. So we were moving like 17, 18, 19-mile days. And I think 19 miles in the Sierras, that's a pretty good clip. And that was just me. That was me struggling to keep up with a 22-year-old. That was, he kind of set the pace, and I had to follow along. Trying not to look too bad in my son's eyes. So,
how much does your again for you, like your pack, what did your pack weigh for that, trying to do 22 miles a day?
Yeah, so in the early years, my base weight, and base weight is your pack weight minus the food and water that you're carrying, right? So back in the early days, my base weight was probably 22, 24 pounds. And I've been able to kind of, through incremental progress, get that down lower to closer to 15, 16 pounds.
So sub 20 is like a realistic base weight. Yeah, that's what I found, like researching a lot of people. What was your guys' pack 6 and 7 base weight, like without water and food, would you think, in the military? Like just your personal gear, if you were to guess, without ammo. Because you guys didn't do dry wet routine, right, for clothing? So you guys carried more? What would be your pack weight,
right?
You think?
Yeah, what, 30 pound?
Ish, yeah. As
Something
long
like
as there
that.
wasn't equipment.
Depends on the
wasn't-
season. So
Depends on the season
Yeah.
as well.
yeah,
Right.
later in the year, because Army will make you carry everything because there's always been an emergency for some idiot, and so you have to carry the entire sleep system, summer,
yeah.
winter, everything, the entire winter system. So 3 or 4 different coats, wet layers, 2 packs or 2 different changes of clothes, extra boots. I mean,
You guys
the-
carried
the
extra
kitchen
boots
sink.
in your rucks?
oh yeah,
What?
dude.
Oh
The
man,
whole kitchen sink.
my unit did
Yeah.
not do that.
Yeah, I've had packing lists 2 pages long, like.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. It's not fun. And then
If you're an
you had
RTO,
Michelin-
You have a
If
radio.
you're an
yeah. And then if you have a
RTO.
radio,
If
yeah.
you're a saw or a 240 gunner, you have to
Yeah.
carry all your links and
Yeah.
extra stuff. I mean, yeah,
Extra
all sorts of
batteries.
nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah, so my pack, which wasn't even the ruck, my pack when I went out was 70 pounds.
Yeah, for like normal operations. Because I think my bag overseas with like rocket launchers and stuff strapped to it, my 3-day assault pack, not a ruck, like my 3-day pack, I think it was
Yeah.
68 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Just my like
Yeah.
40-liter bag. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not counting additional tasking, like if I had the Thor or, like like you said, a rocket launcher, or if I wasn't a gunner, I weighed like 300 pounds
Total.
all in
weight.
total. Yeah.
Wait, yeah. It's about right.
And that's good.
So you.
Everything.
So when you guys do through hiking, I mean, you're already going to be ultra light
Exactly.
in comparison
Yeah,
to what you guys
yeah,
have done in the
yes,
past.
exactly.
It's going to be easy.
Exactly.
It's
It's
easy
gonna feel
for you.
great. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm bringing it up, Doc, is I'm just trying to like wrap their heads around so I can sell this idea to 6 that we're gonna do, the PCT, because I'm like, it's already much lighter than what you're used to. And that's why I was asking you again, Doc, your pack, if it's frameless or internal frame or whatever, because again, I know like my bag behind me in my office, my mystery ranch, it empty is 8 pounds. I know that weight for sure, and I weigh everything. And he shakes in his head because he's like, dude, that's half my base weight. That's crazy.
Yeah, but the pack I carry is closer to 2 pounds, maybe a little bit less than 2 pounds.
Which pack do you carry
Goodness.
again? I'm gonna look it up while we're talking. Which one
I
do you have?
I rotate between the Granite Gear Crown 60
Okay.
and the Six Moon Designs 50-liter bag. Yeah, and there's been I've talked to people who have really had their goal to be as light as possible,
Yeah.
like an 8-pound base weight,
Wow.
and then they've reached that, and they've realized that it's while it's a good weight to carry, it doesn't include everything that they need to be happy on the trail, and so they kind of bottomed out at 8, and then they kind of rebounded up to closer to 15 to carry some of those items that they had previously considered luxury items, but they realized that it just makes the hike better.
Yeah. Do you have any comfort items?
I do. I bring a chair. I bring a 1-pound
I
chair
have a chair
with a back
as well. I bring.
because the first couple of trips you're out there sitting on rocks on your bear canister, you're sitting on logs, but you're always hunched over. And just to be able to sit back and lean into something is glorious. So I invested in a 1-pound chair, and it's a great investment. Other thru hikers, the long distance hikers, you tell them you carry a chair, they're going to look at you sideways. Yeah, they're like,
Do you carry a stove, Doc? Because I know, what's it called? Something soaking, cold soaking. Is that what it is? Cold soaking. Again, I did some research
Yeah.
before, and I'm like, oh, it's weird they cold soak their food to not carry a stove.
yeah, that's another way people cut weight out there is they don't bring a stove. They don't bring the
Yeah.
fuel canister or their little stove, which weighs ounces. Really, it's not a big item, and they'll just bring a Talenti jar where they'll put water in it, and they'll put their food in it, and they'll let it soak for 45 minutes to an hour by the time while they're walking, and when they get to camp, it's ready to eat. But there is a certain type of misery involved with just eating cold food all the time. I gave it a try. I gave it a legitimate try, thinking, okay, this is a way I could cut some weight. And no, stove, please.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
and I know the three of us, without ever serving in the same military between the three of us, we probably have all eaten cold food for years and it's terrible. So that one hot meal you get, I would carry a stove, and I do carry a stove. I would not want a cold soak. But when I researched it, people are eating rice or quinoa is the big one on the trail when they cold soak, because it's whatever can expand with the water. Yeah, they're not doing dehydrated food. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just very different. And it's funny, like you said, that is a luxury item for some people, when according to our methodology with the three of us, our big push is the 4 pillars of survival. So like shelter, fire, water, food. I'm like, my food I'm going to cook. I'm not going to eat it cold. That's just a no-go. That's a priority. I will bring that over a chair. If I had to cut weight at this point, I would bring a stove.
Full cold.
Yeah, there's nothing sadder than after a 15 or an 18-mile day, sitting in camp, slurping out your cold food out of a jar while your 2 or 3 buddies are warming up some nice beef stew on their dehydrated food on their stoves. It's not good.
Well, it's like, culturally, right? It's got to do with the the mental health, the spiritual health, right? Mm-hmm. So anywhere, I don't care what ethnicity, I don't care what culture you're in, a warm meal, that's a morale thing anywhere you go. I mean, it's huge. So I could see doing cold soaking for, short, purposed movements. But yeah, definitely not my way of life.
No, I wouldn't be able to do that. And like, even again, I haven't done anything by definition of a through hike, but I'll use that Skyline Trail as an example, because I always reference it because Google said 3 to 5 days and I crushed it in one night. I didn't bring breakfast. I like logistically planned to only bring snacks and one hot dehydrated meal at night so I could cut weight on food. But I brought a stove, right? I had a chair. I had more water. But yeah, I was like very meticulous in what I was planning, because like Seven said, but at the end of doing, because my first day I did 29 kilometers and most people are on like day 3 and I did it in one go. And I had a hot meal and I'm like, hey, it's earned. And then I crushed the last like 26 kilometers the next morning. I was done by noon.
What's that in real distance?
Oh, in miles?
Yeah, it's not the same thing. Yeah. It's not like a real mile.
Okay. I know it off the top of my head. I think 50 kilometers is 38 miles, I think. I knew this was like 52 kilometers, so just under 40 miles. And I did it in one night.
Miles.
31 miles? Okay.
Yeah.
And I did it in one night. Yeah. But it's like you said, though, right? A lot of people, they're not so focused on, I'm trying to bang out 20 miles today. It's if you get 20, you get 20. If you get 10, you get 10. You're just, like you said, it's the long-term game. It's just very different than what the three of us had done, where you're just trying to get there as fast as possible. Or like Six said, he's like, I can't wait for it to be over. It's
dude, I'm carrying a 70-pound freaking pack with a radio on it, and I have people talking in my ear.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to get that damn thing off.
Yeah, it's just very different. But again, for us, like, I think any through hike would be, a blessing, because like we said, I'm not carrying a 45-pound pack base weight. I'll carry something that's 20 now.
It sounds like you guys are already equipped with trail names as well. I mean, Nomad, 6 and 7.
Yeah, there you go.
There's got to be stories behind that, right?
God.
I only found out what their call signs meant recently. If you guys want to explain it, I had to like Google it because I didn't know what the numbers meant.
We served together in the same unit, and kind of the command structure of of a platoon in the Army. So easy. So just general SOBs, general call signs for command structure. So 6 being the platoon leader, so the lieutenant. And 7 being the platoon sergeant. So just how we had set up the business and how we ran things as COO, COO, just our different roles and responsibilities. That's how we kind of fell into that.
So 6, you're like Lieutenant Dan, and 7, you're like Forrest Gump.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, nice.
Except I have both my legs.
Okay. Yeah. Tomato.
Yeah, I still like the ice cream though.
They don't do you any good if you don't through hike. So.
Yeah, I wasn't even familiar, Doc, with what those call signs meant, because the Canadian military uses different numbers, so I wasn't sure until they brought me onto the show and I had to look it up. And then I kind of went with Nomad because I created like a brand or a company, but I have an LLC for nomadic fieldcraft, and I chose the term nomadic obviously for the nomadic people who they're like the tribes people that I've always moved around. They were never set somewhere stationary, and it resonated with me because I grew up in Ontario, but I got relocated to Alberta for the military, and then I moved again post-uniform. And everywhere I've moved in Canada, I've never felt like I belonged, like culturally to the people. It's just I'm wired differently than the people here. I felt like I didn't belong in the Army, felt like I didn't belong after. And everywhere I've traveled, I'm like, where's the next best place I can go? And I'm still trying to find it in Canada. So I'm like, okay, nomadic is pretty realistic. And I also live a very minimal lifestyle. I don't own a lot of things. So I'm that dude who I could sell everything tomorrow and go in a rucksack like John Rambo and wander through Hope, Washington and be like, yeah, I'm totally cool owning nothing. I don't really need materialistic items.
Yeah, you belong on a trail somewhere.
Probably. I would be the happiest doing that, to be honest with you. Yeah, because I don't own a lot of things. And I'm very comfortable outside when most people are not, especially being up in the cold white north. I do a lot of stuff outside, Doc, and like I did a trip recently. It was minus 50 Celsius, and I was outside for 3 days, and I had no shelter.
Yeah, what's that in real degrees?
What's that in Fahrenheit?
It sounds cold.
Because minus 40 Celsius and minus 40 Fahrenheit are the same. I know that. That's where they match.
Okay, all right.
So that's pretty cold.
That is cold.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we already have our trail names for 2025 PCT with 6 and 7. As he shakes his head, 6 is like
yes, yes. If it hurts, I deserve it.
You don't have to be a through hiker. There's also something called a section hiker, where you hike a section of a trail at a time. And so I always told Mrs. Doc, my wife, Mrs. Doc, she goes by that when I call her that. I told her, if I did the Pacific Crest Trail as a section hike, and I just did 100 miles at a time, I mean, I can knock that out in 26 summers. I mean, no problem.
That's awesome. Is okay, now that you brought that up, are like section hikers pretty popular too?
Yeah, you're probably going to find more section hikers than you are through hikers because it fits more into civilized life. Yeah. You don't have to take 4, 5, 6 months off of your job to, completely through hike a hike. You can, I work with there's a teacher at a neighboring school who, this is how I first heard about through hiking, is he is actually section hiking in the PCT. He's been doing it for a number of years, and he is currently in his, where he is on the map on his hike is he's up in Washington now. So he's getting close to finishing the PCT, but it's been a long haul of, multiple hikes each summer, multiple sections, and he's now up in Washington. So it just fits better with civilized life, and people being able to take time off. So that's probably a little more common than through hiking.
That almost still must be very hard logistically, though, because as you're making your way up your map, you go home, you got to constantly fly back and forth. Whereas, like you said, if you can take the 4 months off, you can just bang it out, right, and then not have to come back and forth every time. But section hiking, there you go. 6. We're gonna start that, a section of the PCT. As he shakes his head again, look at him.
He looks really excited.
I will not make you carry a 40-pound radio. It's fine.
Dude.
We'll do it and it'll be much better.
Like the year I got out of the Army, I had a friend who wanted to do a beer run, which is a freaking I think half marathon, and at the end you get to drink all sorts of beer. And I'm like, why on God's green earth would I ever want to do that? Why would I want to run? So now I'm sitting here thinking, why on God's green earth would I ever want to go on
why would you want to ruck
100-mile ruck?
Wait, why did you say that story? You run and then you drink at the end? You've already done that. What's the big deal?
Well, usually it was the other way around. I would drink and then
go for a run. Yeah,
and then go for a run
at work. Yeah,
it makes it more bearable. So maybe I should do that for the hike. I should just get completely sloshed beforehand and then go on a 100-mile
try and hike.
Yeah, that seems like it'd work out perfectly.
The human brain is amazing because it tends to remember the good times and forget the bad times. Oh, yeah. I like to say that's why women have multiple kids, right? Because they forget the pain of childbirth and they do it again. But Chopper on multiple occasions, we finished a hike and he has said, "Never again."
Oh, he's that guy.
Never
he's
again.
That guy, and you drag
am I
going to
do that? And then
he's like 6.
And then about a month later, he'll say, "All right, let's start planning for next summer."
That's awesome.
He's remembering the good times. He's forgotten about the bad times, and he's gonna give it another shot. So 6, give it a shot.
That sounds like every morning after 7 and I went out to the bars.
Never again.
He'd come into my room. I don't know what happened last night. Never again.
That was one time.
There it is. I was supposed to wait.
Whenever you started, Doc, how long before you were able to bring your son into like through hiking with you, or did he do it on his own?
No, we did the hike with Chopper and Buddy.
The very first one,
first second,
Yep.
2015, and then 2017. Jukebox graduated high school, and I convinced him that this would be a great
Like father-son
kind of
or graduation
graduation
thing?
father-son
Nice.
adventure. Yeah,
Nice.
And so that was great. And then we were able to do a couple more. Since then, we've probably done at least 4 other hikes, including the Trans-Catalina Trail a couple of times. And Catalina is interesting because it has bison on the island.
Like
Wow.
along the trail, you'll see them. That's cool.
Running loose. And so we have had them come through camp in the morning, which is a whole nother experience. They are large creatures.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of bison. There's some in the area I live around me, and they're pretty big.
Yeah, they flew them out to the island in the 50s to make a Western being shot there.
And they just left
And
them.
they never made it into the film. They ended up on the cutting room floor, and they decided it was too expensive to fly them back or move them back. And so they just left them. And so they are still there today.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, see, it's so interesting. There's all these things you wouldn't see unless you did this 100-mile hike with your son.
Yeah, and there are signs out there that say, stay at least 80 yards away from the bison. But the problematic part of that is that the bison can't read.
Yeah, so you're trying to stay away, and then you wake up and these guys are all around you. What are some things that you would tell people getting into this to like start off with in terms of gear? Because I know you were saying like use whatever you have, but if you're going to invest in one piece of equipment, because I researched it again, and people were saying try and get your tent your shelter as light as you can. That's what a lot of people seem to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to focus time and energy and money, resources on particular parts of your gear, focus on the big 3, which would be your backpack, your tent, and your
sleep system. Yep.
Your sleeping bag or quilt. And so if you focus on those 3, if you can get those dialed in over the course of a number of trips, you're going to be better off. Yep.
And you were talking earlier again too about your bear bin. Do you have to use a bear bin on most long through hikes? Like it's required, right, by some of the parks, or it's just recommended? Because you guys don't hang your food up, right? That's not a common thing in through hiking.
Right. It depends on the trail. I know on the AT you can hang a bear bag.
Okay.
In the Sierras you're required to bring a bear canister.
Oh yeah, and that's the big like plastic bin that you're putting into your actual rucksack now, your pack.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That actually makes sense why you want the lightest pack now, because you're filling it with this bin.
So, what are some of the harsh realities that a newcomer doesn't know about that they are going to have to learn that they're going to have to face while they're out there?
I think it's like what Seven said earlier is that there is grit involved. It's not so much. And there's gonna be physical hardship. There's gonna be moments where you're just dead tired and you still have miles to go. But I think that's also a big part of the mental game, being able just to persist and keep putting one foot in front of the other and not get frustrated. I think some of my most frustrating moments on the trail are where I thought I misunderstood. I thought that I had to hike just 4 more miles to camp, and it ended up being like 8 miles. And so, in my mind, I can go 4 miles, no problem. And if at that point and someone had told me, no, it's 8 miles, you can go 8 miles, I would say, okay, I can go 8 miles. But getting 4 miles into that and realizing I had four more miles to go, just super
Soul crushing.
soul crushing.
Yes.
Yes, frustrating.
Yes.
The mental game is, and your expectations are such a big part of through hiking. So I think. Expecting the worst, planning for the worst, and hoping for the best might be a way to go into it.
Yeah, especially if you get like a random pop up like the thunderstorm or something while you're out there, and then you got to deal with that.
Yeah, we've had that upon occasion too. Or in the Sierras, storms just roll in. I mean, it's blue skies 1 minute, and then in the afternoon, you've got hail coming down, and that can be nice and cold. And actually, last year when we did 2 years ago, we did the southern section of the JMT again, there was a guy a day behind us. We found out that was killed by a lightning strike. Where we were the day before. Yeah,
that like never happens, and you were just there. Like, not only did it happen, it was somewhere where you were. That's crazy. I know you were bringing up too earlier, Doc. You said, sorry, you were naming so many like awesome people. That guy, he was the like lieutenant colonel or lieutenant commander from the Navy, and you said he did it like he wanted to do it when he got out, did it with like a much heavier pack. Because through hiking is like expanding, like you said, and there are obviously people from the veteran community doing this. Are these? Do you find in the people you've met and spoken to that there are more veterans getting involved, and are these the guys who are like overpacking because they have the triple redundancy based on their experience, kind of like that guy?
I think statistically, I have no facts to back this up, but I think statistically, there are probably, if you're looking at previous occupations. And comparing them, there are probably more veterans out there or ex-veterans than any other profession. Just guessing, because I know that people are figuring stuff out there.
Yeah.
And I think on their first hike, like Ginger Balls, he showed up with a 65-pound pack. He no longer carries a 65-pound pack. He's got it dialed in. He's carrying a much more manageable weight. So it could be that on their first experience out there, they might overplan and overprepare. But I think the trail will educate you on what you should be carrying out there.
Self-correcting.
Yeah, self-correcting.
Yeah.
Self-correcting. Yeah. And he actually he's got an incredible life. He actually applied to be a whitewater rafting guide in Arizona, and they turned him down. And he thinks it was because of ageism. He's probably not wrong.
Oh, probably, because this guy came from the Navy and like is clearly still super fit and into outdoor stuff. Why would you not want him as a guide?
Exactly. And they closed the door on the wrong guy. But when a door closes, another one opens. He actually got invited to be a dog musher up in Alaska.
Well, that's awesome.
And so the last 2 years, he has been up on a glacier giving dog sled rides to tourists. And
that's super awesome.
The stories that he has shared are just incredible. He's living his best life right now.
What does your water system look like? I know you were talking about your Sawyer water filter, but volume wise, how much do you carry just base in your pack at a time?
Yeah, so I have a hydration bag kind of inside on the top of my gear inside my pack that'll have a liter and a half, 2 liters. I'll have a smart water bottle. It's a couple of liters in a side pouch, and then I've got an extra water bag. That's another 2 liters if we're going to be doing a long stretch between water sources.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So you've got quite a bit of water available to you.
Yeah, there are some sections of the PCT. There's some desert sections where it's like a 40-mile carry between water sources. So they're carrying 7-8 liters of water at a time.
Wow.
I'm just like wrapping my head around how many miles you do a day, because the furthest I've ever walked, I did 30 kilometers a day for 7 days, and I was solo. I didn't see another human being. I did it in the military, and I carried a 45-pound jerry can in my rucksack. I was alone for 7 days, and that was 30 kilometers a day. So I'm just doing some math here.
It's like 18 miles. A day.
18.75 miles a day, and I did that for 7 days, and I didn't see another human being. And I was pretty depressed. I was pretty demoralized at the end of every night, knowing I just had to go even further.
That's because it's Canada, dude.
But I just mean the mental aspect, like Doc is saying, like it's just a grind against yourself, right? You're like, okay, next tree. And then knowing it's, okay, I have 2 more days. I have 3 more days. I have however many more kilometers or miles. I definitely see the appeal of, again, why at 18 years old you'd want to do this. Like, it's pretty amazing to complete something like that.
Yeah, and just to share another aspect that really shows how powerful the trail is there is a real thing called post-trail depression. People get off the trail, they finish one of these long trails, and they go into a depression.
Oh, because they're going back to civilized life. Yeah.
And they're reacclimating and thinking about that experience they just went through. It really has a negative impact on how they're feeling. I mean, they want to be back out there.
Because like you said, it's just so much simpler. It's just you, your food, your shelter, and you're walking. That's it. There's nothing else distracting you. It's just you against yourself. Yeah, you could be thinking about so many things back home, but if you think about it too much, you're not going to finish the trail.
Yeah. Do you know what I realized out there? I realized that unlike Jukebox, the only song that I knew the entire, all of the words to was the Happy Birthday song.
That's the only song you know fully.
That's the only song I know all the words to. I only know bits and pieces of other songs. I start off singing it, I'd be singing to myself, and I'd realize I don't know the rest of the song. So I go to something else, and it'd just be snippets. But I know Happy Birthday. I know all the words to that, so that's an accomplishment.
Do you
How
bring?
many times did you sing that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how many times did you sing that? Do you bring like one of those power bank GPSs with you, or is that like a no-go in through hiking world? Is that just a hiker thing?
No, I think more and more. I think power banks are a bit more common out there. I know other folks will bring like solar chargers.
Yeah.
They'll put out a solar panel on their
with the power
backpack as
bank or whatever.
they're
Yeah.
walking. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys use that in the military too? 6 and 7? Did you guys have that back then? Like solar powered power banks? Some guys I knew did. I tried to be as light as possible.
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, yeah, we had them. Did we use them?
Yeah,
No. No.
You obviously bring a GPS of some sort or some like spot or like the search and rescue one, Doc, with you when you guys go.
Yeah, either Buddy or Chopper usually has one. I think when my son and I went, I borrowed a sat phone from a friend and had a plan. But it's always best to have some kind of emergency outreach device so people can find where you went, or you can contact if you're in trouble. So
Yeah. How does communication work on the trail? Because you're saying at some point, you Jukebox or Chopper will be maybe quarter half a mile apart, just based off of your pace count and everything. So is there a way that you guys have found to communicate together, or are you just going off of different points that that you'll reach on a map?
yeah, I think before we separate or before we break camp, if we're gonna hike apart, we will agree on a destination for lunch or where we're gonna camp in the evening, and so we'll kind of meet up there. So there's really no communication between while we're a half mile or a mile apart from each other. In terms of the different communication devices to talk to people back in civilization, there's the InReach, I think, is one of the more popular ones out there that they now have apps that work with the InReach that you can. It's like almost like you're texting on once you have the signal acquired, it's almost like texting on your cell phone. So
Very cool.
yeah.
You guys bring different kind of navigation tools along, like a map or GPS?
The great thing about the John Muir Trail and probably the PCT and the AT is that there's usually never a doubt as to whether or not you're on the trail, unless you're hiking in deep snow or in inclement weather. So in terms of our summer hikes, we've typically never had we have a map with us. We have a hard map. We also have like a digital book of the trail with different campsites and such. But really never a question of which direction we should be going or if we're actually on or off trail.
Okay. Yeah, because when I did a little bit of my own research, I saw that the vast majority of these trails were very, well, not very, but mostly reliably marked. So you're on it.
Mm-hmm.
But the crazier ones, like I saw one in, I think it was like Argentina or something, that was just like, good luck.
Yeah, one of the trails we didn't talk about, but I was going to mention is something called the Hayduke Trail. Have you heard of the Hayduke Trail in Utah? No. So it connects the 5 national parks, or the trail. Yeah, national parks. It connects the 5 national parks there. You have Arches, you got Zion, you've got Capitol Reef, and there's a couple others. It's an 800-mile network of standalone trails, dirt roads, and off-trail segments that form a semi-cohesive route. There's a lot of wayfinding. You need to know your way around with a compass and a map. And, we're on the John Muir Trail. You're firmly standing upon the trail. There's a sign saying the John Muir Trail, and it's a nice wide footpath. On the Hayduke Trail, there are many times there is no apparent trail, and you just know where you need to go. You need to get to that point over there. And there is a great documentary on, I think it's YouTube, called Figuring It Out on the Hayduke Trail, where they go down this canyon and realize they've gone down the wrong canyon, and they have to make a 8-mile trek back from the way they came to get back into the right canyon.
My
and
goodness.
so it is a torturous trail, and there's quicksand out there as well. I always thought quicksand was just something in the Three Stooges episodes, but it evidently is a real thing.
You know, one of the big reasons that we're so excited to have you on, Doc, is, you know, you are really the embodiment of the individual level skill set that we want to emulate. We want everybody to emulate. So being able to forward plan, being able to carry your own equipment, your own, you know, substance, your sustainment on your back, you know, having the discipline of knowing your pace count, you know, being able to, you know, like I said, have the mental fortitude, you know, to go one more tree, one more mountain. So you're just you know, you're the embodiment of, you know, what we need to be doing in patrolling. So it's just really cool to talk with you and to, you know, get this perspective from, you know, something that's not the military, you know, to show that it really isn't, you know, like say a gate kept, you know, skill set or experience that anybody can do this.
Well, thank you, Seven. I don't know. I've been called the embodiment of anything in my life, so that's a real compliment. I'm not sure if I'm blushing or not, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Are there any resources for people wanting more information on what they can expect, what to buy, the do's and don'ts of through hiking, and basically a how to start kind of guide? Is there one of those out there?
There are so many resources out on the internet. It's just ridiculous. I always try and think back to what this must have been like with someone hiking the PCT or the AT 40 years ago, because there are people out there doing it, and not having the available resources that we have currently is just mind-boggling to me. They literally be out there with a map in their hand in a general direction, and I've got to go that way. But the gear that they had back then, in terms of the weight and the material and the durability, as opposed to, you know, what we have today. I mean, it was just a whole different experience back then. So today, I mean, there's all kinds of resources, several excellent YouTube channels. Elena Osborne did the PCT. She's the young lady from New Zealand. Her trail name is Tip Tap. She is an excellent. She's a future documentarian. Her way of putting together videos and explaining her trip is just phenomenal. It's unlike anything you've ever seen before from any other hiking videos out there. You've got a guy named Chris Carter who put out a video about his PCT hike called To Measure a Mile. Absolutely outstanding. Just so many different resources. If you're looking for a web-based resource, you prefer to read and do some research, you've got a site called Halfway Anywhere that does all kinds of gear surveys of the PCT and CDT hikers each year, so you know what the most common piece of gear used out there was in terms of what was the most frequently used tent or backpack or water filter. It's all listed there, along with all kinds of other data. So just a wealth of resources out there for the modern hiker.
Thanks again, Doc, for taking the time, and we really appreciate this because, again, we're just trying to normalize this to our audience, and this whole tactical prepared spaces, it's very gate kept, and all these different skills aren't sharing with one another when we're trying to bring all these sources together. And everyone thinks because they patrolled in the Army, they're a patrolling subject matter expert. I'm like, nah, man, there's 18-year-old girls crushing through hikes, and they probably have a doctorate in foot care, and you couldn't go 3 days without water because the Army gave it to you.
Yeah, Nomad, I'd love to have you on the podcast. We love talking to people who have had a wide variety of experiences out there, especially experiences in the area of Type 2 fun. You guys familiar with Type 2 fun?
No.
Oh, okay. So Type 1 fun is you're having fun while it's happening, but you really don't think too much about it afterwards.
Okay, I know where this is
Type
going.
2 fun is you're not sure if you're going to survive, but man, you tell this story to anybody who will listen.
Yeah.
At every party you go to, and so that's Type 2 fun. Those are the best stories.
I have a whole bunch of stories of Type 2 fun. I don't think I did a lot of Type 1 fun in the military. I'm sure 6 or 7 didn't either. It was funny after, but
Not a single one. It was all Type 2 fun.
Type 2. Yeah.
Some of it was Type 3 where it wasn't fun at all.
Forced fun is what we called it at work. They're like, it's forced fun.
Mandatory fun.
Yeah.
Mandatory fun days.
Mandatory fun. Well, yeah. Thanks again, Doc, for taking the time.
My pleasure. My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate
And
it.
and Doc, while you're here, you want to go ahead and drop the name of the podcast and your Instagram handle so people know where to find you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Instagram handle is John Freakin Muir. No G. John Freakin Muir. Again, I'm not John Muir. John Muir is a naturalist, the father of our national park system here in the States. He met with Teddy Roosevelt, and they had a conversation, and lo and behold, the national park system was born. So John Freakin Muir on Instagram, and the podcast is called the John Freakin Muir Pod.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. If you're still here, this is 6. I am at HTSM Podcast .6, and we got Nomadic Fieldcraft, and we have 7 over there at HTSM or Hard Times Strongmen Podcast. We are the Hard Times Strongmen Podcast, training up a better class of men. Stay in the fight.